Well, good morning, everybody. Ben Dorr here, Executive Director with Minnesota Gun Rights, and I want to talk about what happened last night. What happened last night? Guys, I'm coming at you live from our headquarters here in Northfield, Minnesota. A bunch of you are going to be watching this post-broadcast on YouTube later on. So thank you for joining us there, guys. Let me know where you're watching from, and we're going to talk about what happened last night. We're going to give you all the details in order as it happened, so everybody knows what tricks were played last night to keep Minnesota gun rights from testifying against these gun control bills last night. There was a lot of gimmicks, guys, a lot of gimmicks, a lot of games, a lot of little trick plays done by the legislators. Anything to make Minnesota gun rights look like, oh, they're a scam. Anything to make us look like we're not doing our jobs. These legislators will do anything, including barring the largest grassroots gun rights organization in the state from speaking up against this gun control legislation. And that is exactly what happened last night. So we're going to give you all the details coming at you live right now. Let me know where you're watching from. We have Christine in Sioux Falls. We got James from Sunrise, Minnesota. Wonderful. We have Randy in Burnsville. We have Mike in Mankato, Eric in Oakdale, Jesse in Preston, Chuck in Farmington, my friend, my good friend, Mark in Hayfield today, Gordon, as always, from Columbus, Bob in White Bear Lake, Tony in Bloomington. Guys, did you see what happened last night? So here we go. Here's what happened. The moment these committee hearings were announced last night, the committee hearings that happened last night, the moment they were announced days ago, we knew that we were going to be there testifying against red flag law and universal gun registration. So we immediately sent in an email to the administrator of the House Public Safety Committee. I said, my name is Ben Dorr. I'm with Minnesota Gun Rights, and I'd like you to put me down on whatever list there is to testify against these gun control bills during the hearing. And so they contacted me back, and they said, look, we don't know how this committee hearing is going to be structured yet, if it's going to be scheduled testimony or if it's going to be an open mic, first come, first serve. We don't really know yet, but we'll let you know. And they said, if there's going to be a scheduled testimony, you were the first person to reach out and contact us. You'll be the first person to talk. We will honor that. That's what they said. So we will honor that. So over the course of 3 or 4 days leading up to this committee hearing, I was in contact multiple times with Jason Chavez, who is the Public Safety Committee Chair's legislative assistant. He's Carlos Mariani's LA. I was communicating with him and with Jamal Lundy, who is the Public Safety Committee administrator. These guys are the ones who decide how all of this stuff goes, okay? So I wanted to make sure everything that we had to do was done in order to testify, because I knew they didn't want us to testify. Nobody wanted us to testify. None of these legislators did. None of the legislators did. And so what happened? They said, you're totally clear. You're good to go. You're signed up. You're ready to rock and roll. And they said, there's going to be tickets at the door. Okay. I said, what if I don't get a ticket? Right? I mean, they go fast. Everybody knows a lot of people can't make it into the room. Although there were a puzzling amount of open chairs in the committee room last night. Did anybody notice that? An awful lot of open chairs in that committee room for a room that was supposed to be packed out. So I got there 4 hours before the committee meeting was supposed to happen, went to room 120 where it was going to happen, and talked to the sergeant at arms. He's a good guy. I talked to the sergeant at arms, and I said, hey, where can I grab a ticket? Where can I get a ticket from? And he said, tickets are all gone. I said, what do you mean the tickets are all gone? He said, they've been disseminated. I said, I'm 4 hours early. Did people show up and get all the tickets ready? And he said, no. We gave half of the tickets to the Democrats on the committee, and half of the tickets went to the Republicans on the committee. And I said, so you're telling me that the legislators themselves get to decide who comes in the room? The legislators, the politicians get to decide who gets to come in there? And he said, it's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. And I said, so who do I got to talk to? He said, well, we gave it to the lead, right? So what did I do? I went right over to Brian Johnson's office. Brian Johnson is the lead Republican on that committee. He doesn't like Minnesota gun rights because we called him out for his gun control hearings last year and because he refused to hold a hearing on stand your ground law. So I went right over to his office across the street in the state office building, and there he was sitting right at his desk. His door was wide open. It was wide open, and his legislative assistant was gone. And so I walked right in there. I said, Brian, what do I, oh, no, that's not quite right. Here's how this went. Okay. So after I talked to the sergeant at arms, I pulled out my phone because here's how this went. Jason Chavez, because he told me, he said, if you can't get a ticket, he said, that's okay. He said, all you have to do, he said, I've got you signed up to testify. He said, all you have to do, he said, I'm going to have my laptop open during the whole committee hearing. And he said, if you can't get in the room because you don't have a ticket, he said, just shoot me an email and say, hey, I'm outside. And he said, I'll let you in to testify. So I said, oh, good. So I guess at the end of the day, I didn't really need a ticket, right? Right? Well, no. So as soon as I was told that the tickets were all gone, right? As soon as I was told that, I pulled out my phone to shoot an email off to the committee and just make sure they knew I was there to testify and the tickets were all gone, so they had to let me in. And here was this email from Jamal Lundy. We're going to put this out there so you guys can all see it. Hold on now. So there's the first email. Can you read that? I'm going to read it to you right now. It says, Ben, the chair has allocated equal amounts of time to both sides. For the proponent side, we'll be hearing speakers that the author has prioritized. With the remaining time available, we will hear proponents at a first-come, first-serve basis. For the opponent side, and that would be Minnesota gun rights because we are opposed to this legislation, we will be hearing speakers that the minority has prioritized. So the legislators themselves, the politicians, get to decide who speaks against and for the bills. So they call it a public hearing, a public testimony, and the public gets to make their voices heard. But in reality, the only people who actually get to speak were the ones chosen by the politicians themselves. How's that for a public hearing, everybody? It says, for the opponent's side, we'll be hearing speakers that the minority has prioritized. With the remaining time available, we will hear proponents at a first-come, first-serve basis. This is in keeping with what has been done in the past and is at the request of the minority. So they're saying once all the hand-picked testifiers speak, then if there's any time left over, which there will not be, it'll be a first-come, first-serve basis. And so I'm sitting there going, first-come, first-serve basis. So not only do you not get to testify unless they put you up there to testify, but at the same time, when it's open mic, when it's first-come, first-serve, you don't get to speak anyway because you don't have a ticket into the room. You don't have a ticket into the room. And he says this is in keeping with what has been done in the past and is at the request of the minority. The Republicans asked for it to be this way. This was a request from the minority party, Kurt Doubt and these guys on the committee. It says, Ben, as I stated, the committee will hear your testimony first. Thank you for contacting our committee. And I went, oh, good. Oh, good. Well, whew, good thing I contacted them so long ago. My testimony on behalf of the members and supporters of Minnesota gun rights, I'm first in line. Good, good. I get to speak on behalf of our people, my people, because you're my people. I went, that's good. But then I saw there was another email. So this email came in at 1:47. You probably can't see that. I'll share it. I'll share it again. So that email came in at 1:47. And see at the bottom, Ben, as I stated, the committee will hear your testimony first. Well, I got another email at 1:48. 1 minute later, I got an email back and it says, Ben, see the amended email below. And if you see that, can you read that? It says, Ben, as I stated, the committee will hear your testimony first. And then in all bold, this is what he sent back. He goes, after hearing from the minority priority testifiers. After hearing from the minority priority testifiers. So only after all of the hand-picked speakers, hand-picked by the politicians themselves, oh, then if there's any time left over, then you'll get to speak. Which there was not. Which there was not. Folks, this entire structure of this hearing was done to make sure that the only people who got to speak last night were the ones who were approved by the politicians themselves. They did this to make sure Minnesota gun rights, who answers to no one but you, no one but the members and supporters of Minnesota gun rights, they wanted to make sure we did not get to speak on your behalf. Minnesota gun rights did not get to be heard testifying against these bills last night. And again, this was not a Democrat play. This was not a Democrat play. This was a Republican play. A Republican play. So guys, why didn't they want us to testify? Here's the difference. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Everybody who testified in Minnesota gun rights, we were not going to do this. We were not going to do this. But everybody who testified was talking about policy. Policy. It was all policy. It had nothing to do with politics. See, that was the difference. Minnesota gun rights was not going to sit there. We were not going to sit there and do what everybody else does, right? Because people, you guys ask, you say, is it even worth showing up to testify? These people don't listen to facts. They don't listen to reason. These people don't want to discuss this stuff. Well, that's because everybody who showed up was going to talk about policy. They were going to talk about what was bad about the bills, what they disagreed with, what part of it was unconstitutional. We weren't going to waste our time because we know, like you know, these politicians don't care about facts. They don't care if red flag law tramples all over our rights and freedoms. They don't care. We were going to testify on politics. Politics. In specifically, what's going to happen to these people if they trample our gun rights? We were going to tell them what was going to happen if they passed these laws and what we as an organization were willing to do at election time to punish them for attacking our rights. They don't want to hear that. They want you to sit there and go, oh, well, we should talk about what's good and what's bad about the bills. These people don't care. They all decided before they got there what they were going to vote on, what their answer was going to be. So we were not going to waste your time, and we weren't going to waste our time by talking about the pros and cons of the bills. We were going to tell them that there was going to be tremendous political pain at election time for stabbing us in the back if they pass this legislation. And that's something none of those politicians want to hear. So who did get to testify? Not you, not me, not many others. I got contacted by dozens of gun owners way before the committee, and they said, how do I get to testify? How do I get on the list? How do I get on the list? Vicky, we're going to talk about the next step very, very shortly, but I had to make sure that what happened last night was very clear because there seemed to be a little bit of misunderstanding from some people about what happened last night. So we're walking through this first, and we'll talk about the rest of that when we're done here. So who got to testify? Again, all the hand-picked people that the politicians wanted to talk. So the Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus, they got to talk. They got a seat at the table. Because they're always willing to play nice. But in particular, I got a couple of messages about this last night. Joe Olson with the Minnesota the Gun Owners Civil Rights Alliance. It's a dead organization. Doesn't really exist anymore. I mean, they say so themselves, that they don't really have an organization anymore. But on occasion, old man Olson will come to the Capitol and testify on a bill. And so after they've gone all the way through House File 8, they passed House File 8 out of that committee last night. They passed universal gun registration out of the committee last night. And they were on to House File 9. Everybody had testified. And here sits down Joe Olson. Now, Joe Olson, if you guys have been watching the GOKRA Facebook page, they brought that page back to life a few weeks ago. It's been a dead page. There have been times where they've gone months at a time without doing a single Facebook post. Because, again, they're not really an organization anymore. But Joe Olson brought that Facebook page back to life just a couple of weeks ago for the sole purpose of attacking Minnesota gun rights. Have you seen it? You should go on their page sometime. Check it out. They repeatedly attack Minnesota gun rights. They attack myself. They attack my brothers who also work in gun rights politics. And they have done everything. He has done everything he could possibly do to try to discredit the work that Minnesota gun rights does. And so I thought it very peculiar last night when Joe Olson sits down at almost midnight and he goes, oh, there's a certain individual who'd like to speak, Ben Dorr. I'd like to give him a little bit of my time if somebody could find him. And so the Chair Mariani goes, oh, we'll see if we can send somebody to find him. And so the Democrats send out some staffers to go and look for me because, hey, this great man, Joe Olson, he wants to give Ben Dorr a little bit of time. He wants to let Minnesota gun rights testify. And so they come back. Joe Olson gives his whole speech. And the chair says, all right, we're out of time. And he goes, well, we looked for Ben, but couldn't find him. Where's Ben Dorr? So everybody's sitting there. I'm like, why on earth would he do that? He hates me. He hates Minnesota gun rights. He hates my brothers. He hates this whole organization. Why on earth would Joe Olson offer me a minute behind the mic? Well, it's because I wasn't there. I went home after being barred from the room, given no ticket in, being taken off of the testifier list, and it being nearly midnight. I wasn't going to sit there and slam my head against the wall all night long and pretend that we were getting somewhere. So I went home to my wife and my boys. And you know what? The legislators, they knew that. And so did Joe Olson. and so did Joe Olson. But why on earth would they do that? Why on earth would they do that? Because now they're all running around going, see, we tried to give Ben a minute behind the mic, but he never showed up. He never showed up. As Rosie just says, they waited for you to leave. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Look, I'm under no illusion. This is why we don't make a giant deal out of making sure gun owners come out there and sit in a little circle and pretend that that is the greatest thing we can do in activism, right? We know that's not. We know it's not. It's the phone calls, the emails, it's the political pressure you guys put on. That is where we win, right? So I was under no illusion that my walking in circles out in the hallway was going to be the best thing we could possibly do, that I could possibly do to advance gun rights. So I know that some of these other organizations like to make it, you know, hey, if you're not standing there every minute of every day, you're not being an activist, but they're wrong. They're wrong. So yeah, they waited until I left, and then Joe Olson sat down and played the game with the Republicans and the Democrats, offered me a minute of his time, and when they couldn't find me, well, clearly, Ben Dorr didn't want to testify. Clearly, Ben Dorr never even showed up. Ben Dorr didn't even show up. And so you wonder, is this actually happening? Is this even happening? Okay, so I got some messages from gun owners this morning. And so a great member of Minnesota Gun Rights sent a message to Paul Gazelka. And Paul Gazelka, he likes to act coy, but he's not. Paul Gazelka says the chair responds to this gun owner, says, I'm in the Senate and I don't control committee testimony, whatever. If you don't think that the Senate Republicans and the House Republicans work together, if you don't think they have some sway there, you're dreaming. If you don't think that Senate Democrats work with House Democrats, you got to be crazy. But so when Paul Gazelka goes, I'm in the Senate, how would I have anything to do with the House? I mean, how stupid do you think people are, Paul? So my friend says, Mary Kiffmeyer needs to replace you as House Speaker. I think what he meant to say was as Senate Majority Leader. Your refusal to let Ben Dorr into the committee hearing today really tells me you don't support the Second Amendment. Gazelka responds and says, I didn't deny anyone. I'm in the Senate and don't control committee testimony. In fact, the chair of the committee just asked where Ben Dorr was because it was his turn to testify. He was absent. He has lied to you. Watch the video for yourself. So they pull a little trick play on camera and say, oh, if Ben would like to have a minute of my time, he can. And Paul Gazelka sits there and says, it was his turn to testify. There was no turn. Minnesota Gun Rights members and supporters didn't get a turn. Minnesota Gun Rights members did not get a turn at the mic. We were yanked from that. And now Paul Gazelka is using that little stunt by Joe Olson to make it look like, hey, Ben Dorr had a shot, but he never even showed up. Minnesota Gun Rights, they could have spoken, but they didn't show up. Sean says, I watched the whole thing. They waited till the last 5 minutes to ask where you were. Well, sure. The chair, Carlos Mariani, he goes, well, we tried to find Ben Dorr, and Ben Dorr's not here. But we're out of time anyway. Testifying is over. Bam, done. Bam is done. So what a cute little trick play by Republicans and Democrats in the legislature to make it look, guys, the whole thing was a dog and pony show. The whole thing was an absolute clown show is what it was. They all worked together. I mean, it's really incredible. It's incredible. Mitch says, I was there. It was all smoke and mirrors. Teresa says he's telling the truth. Most of you saw this. A lot of you were watching this last night. So now, Mr. Rogers, Paul Gazelka, he can run around telling everybody, MGR's liars. They were supposed to testify. The chair called them out. Look, watch the video. You can see for yourselves. No, I think that what gun owners can see for themselves are the lies and the deceit that continue to happen within our legislature to make sure that the members and supporters of Minnesota gun rights don't make their voices heard. But hey, we do, guys. Do not be dismayed, okay? We have the largest Facebook page in the state, as far as I know. Certainly the largest political Facebook page. We have a tremendous list. We have our way of communicating with you guys. And you know what? The members and supporters of Minnesota gun rights have poured nearly 60,000 emails. 60,000 emails in total into the Capitol since session kicked off. So they can sit there and go, ha, we didn't let Minnesota gun rights testify. We got them. Yeah, well, 60,000 emails speaks louder than I possibly could. So they yanked us from testifying. They kept us out of the room. Because they didn't want us to say what we were going to say, and that is that whether you are a Republican or a Democrat, if you support this legislation, we will come after you at election time and make sure you pay the price for your betrayals. That was going to be the message. Nobody said that. Nobody said that last night. All the hand-picked testifiers, all of those hand-picked testifiers, they got up there and said, oh, this is how this works. This is how that works. This is unconstitutional like this. And no, I'm opposed to it because of that. The politicians don't care. They don't care. We know they don't care, right? That doesn't mean we can't influence them, right? Doesn't mean we can't influence them, but they don't care if it's constitutional or unconstitutional. They don't care. And so that's why we put pressure on them. We don't beg them. We don't try to explain to them how this works. We tell them, you either fly right, you either vote right, or we are going to come after you, politically speaking, at election time in your districts. And guys, we do. And we've had tremendous success. We've had the best success at election time exposing these people. Nate says, so what's next? I'm not big on politics. Next, hey, we're gonna refocus on the next step in this fight, where to put pressure. If you're not getting our emails, sign up. If you're not sending your pre-written emails on our action center on our website, go there. Send your pre-written email to your lawmakers telling them to oppose this legislation. If you're not a member, join. Go to joinmgr.com. Join up today. Help us put pressure on them. We're rolling out programs in targeted districts all across the state. Targeted emails, targeted radio ads, targeted mail. Stuff is happening all the time. So that's a start. We'll let you know who to target. Let's see here. And here's the other thing. I just again, we understand at Minnesota Gun Rights that it's not the best thing always. It's nice to have a showing of people. This is true. But it's not the most important thing in the world to make sure you have 500 gun owners come out to a committee hearing, right? Because the reason the committee hearing is happening is because they already know what is going to take place. And so I saw this picture of the gun owners, of all the activists in the overflow room, all these Moms Demand Action people sitting at the tables, all the gun owners sitting on the ground inside this committee room. Since when do gun owners do a Moms Demand Action style sit-in? Since when do we come in and lay on the floor and say, look at us? I mean, I understand we're there to fight for the Second Amendment, but don't, as an organization, we should not be wasting the time and the money and the activism of our members. We need to be making phone calls, sending emails. We need to be going door to door in their districts. We need to be pouring on the pressure, not doing some Moms Demand Action style, showing. But hey, that's all some of these organizations know how to do, because that's all they've ever seen. Well, we know better. We know better than that. We need to target these people with pressure. Yeah, Vicky, he's just trolling. He's just trolling. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. They confirmed multiple times that we were on the list of speakers last night to speak on behalf of the members and supporters of Minnesota gun rights. And only after we got there did they send us an email saying, well, actually, the people who get to testify are handpicked by the legislators themselves. They're handpicked by the legislators. I don't know how you feel about that, but that's not a public hearing to me. That's not public testimony. Those are handpicked talking pieces by the politicians themselves. It's not good. Not good at all. And so even if they could have gotten us a ticket into the room, even if we had a ticket into the room, that's not a ticket to speak. That's just a ticket to get into the room. That's just a ticket into the room. So when people are sitting there going, oh, maybe we could have gotten them a ticket. No, it was a ticket into the room, not a ticket to speak. They did this on purpose. Martin says, sounds like filled in figureheads to push their agenda. That's exactly what this is. That's exactly what this was. And so I just wanted to make sure everybody knew what had happened last night. Because, hey, a lot was happening. We were live. There's a lot of commotion, a lot of chaos. But I wanted to make sure you knew what took place. That Kurt Doubt and Paul Gazelka, the leaders of the Republicans, they are the ones who requested that this committee structure take place this way. They're the ones who requested this. That's what the committee administrator told me. This was at the request of the minority. And so we were perfectly happy, by the way, perfectly happy to have these committee hearings anywhere, right? They were going to make a show in the Edina Middle School. They were going to do this wherever. They're going to do it all over the place. We were going to testify wherever it was. But hey, they pulled it back to the Capitol, and everybody thought, oh, good. Now it's going to take place in the people's house. No. They pulled it back into the Capitol building so they could control who got in the room, so they could control who got to speak. That's what that was. So all the gun owners who were putting pressure on them to hold the hearing back at the Capitol, you were all used by those other organizations to fulfill their end goal, and that was to control who got on the mic. So last night, to sum this up, House File 8 passed the committee, and it went to the House. So House File 8 is universal background checks, universal gun registration. That passed the committee, and that goes on to the House Judiciary Committee. So there's going to be a whole nother line of committee hearings coming up here on that bill. They did not make it through House File 9, red flag gun seizures. They're going to take up House File 9 again today, a little after noon, in the House Public Safety Committee. But hey, no public testimony. Nobody gets to speak. So they're going to be holding that hearing today at the Capitol. We're going to be monitoring it. But we're rolling out programs, hard-hitting programs in targeted districts. That's what we're doing today. That's what we're rolling out. We're not going to sit here and pretend that sitting in committee all day long and just letting people see our faces is what's going to get the job done. No. Pressure in district. That's what's coming for these people. Joe says it was all a joke from the start. Yep, it was a dog and pony show. A dog and pony show. Unbelievable. And an absolute attack. An absolute attack on our First Amendment right to free speech. And then right there at the end, they saw the video, right? They saw the video. Our video from last night, I think it has somewhere around, it's getting close to about 20,000 views on our video from last night. They saw it happen. We had over 300 people watching it at the time. So we got almost 20,000 views on there. They knew it happened. The committee hearings were still going on, and they decided, you know what? I saw Ben leave. Let's offer him a minute. Let's offer him a minute to testify real quick. Hey, I'd sure like to give that Ben Dorr guy a minute behind the mic. We'll see if we can find him. Oh, couldn't find him. He must not have wanted to testify. What an absolute sham. What an absolute lie. What a great big BS play to trick all the gun owners who were watching that video live or who were there live. So guys, there you have it. We'll keep you updated on where these bills are going, who to put pressure on. But I wanted you to have the facts. They approved us to speak, and then they yanked us. From off the agenda. They said we were going to speak, and they wouldn't let Minnesota gun rights members and supporters speak. And then they said, oh, there's going to be tickets. You can get tickets while you're there. Oh, no, you can't get tickets. They said, show up early if you want to get your tickets. Kind of makes it sound like there's a table full of tickets sitting there, right? And all you got to do is show up and grab your ticket. No. It didn't matter what time you showed up. They gave half the tickets to the Democrats and half the tickets to the Republicans. So it didn't matter what. You could have showed up a month ago. There wouldn't have been a ticket available. For you. Because you weren't one of the favored. You weren't one of the favorites of the politicians. Only the politicians' favorites got to speak last night. That's not a public hearing. In fact, that's got to be some sort of ethics violation. We're going to look into that. It's got to be some sort of ethics violation. Sue says, you mean Democrats with an R behind their name. True story. Guys, that's what I got for right now. We're kicking this day off here. Please share this video. Martin says, that's a closed door meeting. Yeah. It was a closed door meeting with all the appearance of being a public hearing. Isn't that great? Brady says, that's what I thought. And I got there at 4:00. Yeah, a lot of gun owners were showing up early to get their tickets because they were told there were tickets. First come, first serve. Nope. There were no tickets for first come, first serve. There were only tickets for those who were loved by the politicians. They controlled the tickets. So yeah, once I got this email, I went over and talked to Brian Johnson. And I said, Brian, I said, I see that somehow the politicians get to decide who speaks. I said, where am I in your lineup? Do you have a ticket for me into the room? Well, I don't think so. Well, I don't have the tickets, he says. And again, Brian Johnson is the Republican lead on the House Public Safety Committee. I said, well, I was told by the Sergeant at Arms that you do have the tickets. So who has the tickets? Well, my staff does. Okay, who's your staff? Who do I gotta John, I forgot his name. I wrote his name down. John, this guy. Well, how do I get a hold of him to get a ticket into the room and make sure that I'm on the list to testify against this gun control? And Brian Johnson, he hates our guts. Hates gun owners. Hates them. Hates the members and supporters of Minnesota gun rights. Terrible. And he goes, well, here's, I got his phone number, I think. Oh, shoot. And he's just fumbling all over the place. Here's his phone number. And he reads it off of his computer. And guys, this happens all the time. Happens all the time. He's reading it off of his computer. And he goes, here's the phone number. And he pulls his cell phone out of his shirt pocket. And he pulls it right down below the table. And he goes, yep, there's his number. If you give him a call, and he's texting the guy under the table. We see it all the time. Very, very common. Very, very common. Oh, if you get a hold of this guy, he might be able to get you a ticket, he says. So I turn around and immediately call that number. I instantly call that number, but it was too late. It was too late. His text had gotten through. The guy didn't answer. He never called me back, and I never did get a hold of him. Public hearing, Public hearing. No, Brian Johnson, Kurt Doubt, and the rest of these guys, they got to decide who was in the room. They got to decide who was going to speak. They stonewalled Minnesota gun rights members and supporters everywhere we went. Everywhere we went. It was a great big show. And I'm sick and tired of gun owners getting used this way. Mitch Thompson says, I'm playing your live feed in front of Dave Pinto. Did you say you're at the gym with him, Mitch? That's incredible. That's incredible. Yeah, Dave Pinto. He's the sponsor of universal gun registration in the Minnesota House. Vicky says, I'm ashamed of Minnesota government. Yeah, there's so much we could talk about here. There's so much corruption in St. Paul. The Republicans, the Democrats, and the news media, they're all in it too. The news media, they know you don't talk to Minnesota gun rights. You don't talk to those guys. Don't talk to the largest gun rights organization in the state. They might talk badly about politicians, and we can't have that. We can't have that. So the news media, they all know who I am. They all looked at me. Give me this look. They all know who Minnesota gun rights is. They all know who Minnesota gun rights is. But hey, we don't talk to those guys because they don't play nicely with politicians. Stephen Enoch, who's a superstar, comments, he showed up last night. He was one of the gun guys who showed up last night with a testimony prepared to testify against this gun control in the committee. Stephen Enoch never got the opportunity because he wasn't one of the favored by the politicians. He says, this is why you have to maintain your representative government. The powerful will always kick the ladder down after they climb. Now we have to build our own ladders. That is exactly what we're doing. We're building our own ladder. That's why Minnesota Gun Rights is a grassroots mobilization organization. So the answer to this question, what do we do now? The only thing we can do is continue to grow stronger and stronger than ever before, bigger and bigger than ever before, because the members and supporters of Minnesota Gun Rights have never let us down. The members and supporters of Minnesota Gun Rights have never bailed when we needed you to stand up and fight. You never have, and I know you never will. Politicians will. fake news media, they will. These other organizations and their pets, these pet organizations of the politicians, they will always bail. Minnesota gun rights will never bail, and we know you guys won't either. So if you're not a member, join up today. Get on board. Stand and fight with us. Stand and fight with us. We know how to play this game. We know how to pressure politicians. We know what to do. We know what to do. But I just want to make sure you saw the corruption that was what happened last night. Sam Adams, and I love your name, by the way. If your name is actually Samuel Adams, you have one of the coolest names ever. But if it's just a Facebook name, it's still a cool name. But Sam Adams, that's freaking really cool. Sam, go to the top of this video and pinned in the comment section right here. Pinned in the comment section is a link to join. Otherwise, go to joinmgr.com. Joinmgr.com. You can join up, be a member there. Otherwise, make a contribution. But guys, stand with us. Stay standing with us. I'll tell you what, if we weren't making an impact, they would never go through these lengths to stop us from testifying. If they weren't feeling tremendous amounts of pressure, they would never do this. They would never do this. So thank you. Thank you very, very, very much. I'm losing my voice. I've been on Facebook Live entirely too much in the last few days. The results, again, last night, I think was a 9-7 vote to pass House File 8. As universal gun registration got passed out of that committee last night, and it's going into the House Judiciary Committee. So we're going to put pressure on over there. The hearing on House File 9 will continue today in the House Public Safety Committee. But they're not accepting any public testimony, and the public is not allowed to speak. Typical. So we'll let you know what happens at the end of that. We'll be sending you updates. We expect it to be the same as last night. The stuff is all set up in advance, but there are many pitfalls, many roadblocks that these people have to go over in order to pass this stuff. And we're going to be fighting it every step of the way. Some places are easier than others. Passing it out of the House Public Safety Committee, that was about the easiest thing they could have done to pass it. Let's see here. Jeremy says, I agree with you, Ben. We need to fight harder than ever. Yes, more pressure. And again, these people, they're liars. Paul Kozelka is a liar. He's a bad man. He's a stupid man, but he's a bad man. He's bad and stupid and weak. That's a horrid combination. A horrible combination. Many of these politicians are the same. They will send you back what they consider to be the best response. If you communicate with them and say, how dare you do what you did, they'll say, oh, I didn't do that. This happened over here and Ben Dorr's lying over there. They're liars. They're professional liars. They're politicians. They're empty, soulless suits. And we can't believe a word they say. I've heard a couple of people say, oh, some of the Republican members on that committee did really good last night in defending our gun rights. Well, all I can say is it's pretty darn easy to stand there and act like a champion for gun rights when you are in the minority. All of those members on the committee who were talking so boldly about the Second Amendment, where were they for the last 4 years when House Republicans who had the majority in 2015, 2016, 2017, and 2018, where were they when Stand Your Ground law was being killed? You see, it was acceptable for them to be fighting for gun owners last night. But in the 4 years prior to that, when they couldn't pretend to be fighting against gun control, because when you have a massive majority, you're not fighting gun control. You have a majority. You should be advancing pro-gun bills. Every single one of those people choked. None of those people advanced stand your ground law for the last 4 years. And that, my friends, is the true test. What do these people do? What do the Republicans do when they have massive majorities? Saying, as the majority party, we will not pass gun control. Well, that's a start. But when you have a 20-person Republican majority in the House, which they had for years, it's not your job to just stop gun control. It's your job to advance our gun rights, stand your ground, constitutional carry law, strengthened castle doctrine, things like that. No, we didn't get any of that. And every single one of those public safety committee members was a part of that. They were a part of that. So please keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. I love you guys. Thank you for coming on here. I'm going to hop off for right now. Please share this video. And if anybody's asking, where was Minnesota gun rights last night? We didn't see them testify. Share this video with them. And those who say, well, they were offered a chance to speak, but they didn't show up. Well, now everybody knows. Now everybody knows. Great big dog and pony show. Thanks, Joe Olson with the Gun Owners Civil Rights Alliance for playing the game that the politicians wanted to play. Oh, doesn't he look such a nice old man? Oh, Ben Dorr, he can have a little bit of my time. He can have a little bit of my time if he wants to speak, if he's here. What a joke. What a joke. What a con. What a little con. But we're not going to stop. We're not backing down. Look, we don't get depressed. We don't get defeated. We don't get beat down. Never happens. We're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep swinging. We're going to keep the pressure on. And we will punish any legislator who attacks our gun rights at election time, especially the weak ones. Especially the weak ones. If you live in a swing district, and you vote against our gun rights, God help you in the upcoming elections. Because we won't. We won't. No. The Gun Owners Caucus probably will, though. They love endorsing anti-gunners. It's like their favorite pastime. Not Minnesota gun rights. We're going to keep swinging. We'll let you know about the programs that are running out very, very shortly. We'll get back to you with more updates soon. Watch our Facebook page. We'll be posting some updates from the hearing today. We fully expect red flags will pass the House Public Safety Committee. Today, they're not having any public testimony. So we'll give you some updates on that. Keep watching our Facebook page. And as Anthony Roberts says, keep giving them hell. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Mike Bickford, I sure do hope that you're not just trolling. But he says, Ben, does member contributions stay in Minnesota or are they shared amongst the others? I don't know what the others means, but Minnesota Gun Rights fights for Minnesota. And Minnesota Gun Rights members and supporters fight for Minnesota. And member contributions go to fight for gun rights in Minnesota. And to insinuate anything else is pretty stupid. It's pretty stupid. It's pretty dumb. We don't do that. That'd be called fraud. So, guys, I love you guys. Steven says, praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. I love it. Gordon says, it's a Minnesota clown house. I love that. That's exactly what it is. I hate that that's what it is, but that is what it is. Hey, yeah, we're gonna keep the pressure on. We're gonna keep fighting, keep swinging. Share this video. Join up. Mike, I'll send you a message. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good day.